Star Wars: Master and Apprentice was written by Claudia Gray. It is our next book that we will be looking at in our little Star Wars canon book reviews. This book is sort of considered a companion piece to the last book, to the book I just reviewed, Dooku Jedi Lost, because it has a lot to do with Dooku and Qui-Gon and stuff, and it really works. The book works very well as a sequel. So if you read Dooku Jedi Lost and Master and Apprentice back to back, that's definitely how I would read those books, because they work just very well together. That's definitely how the books were meant to be, because they were also written around the same time, and they were written and released around the same time, and the authors consistently spoke with each other on what they were doing, make sure everything was in this timeline we get put in order well. So that helps a lot. And like I said, it's pretty much a companion piece. And just not just in what it deals with, but in quality too. This was very, very good. So let's talk about it. Claudia Gray has written a couple Star Wars books. She wrote this one, Bloodlines, which was about Leia, and Lost Stars, which is very good. Just probably one of the best stories out of canon. Like, it's probably a story that most people recommend. I loved it. A lot of people loved it. It is very good. It's one of the best stories we've gotten in canon. So, Claudia Gray knows how to write, and she proves that again with this. This is a very well-written story. I was not as... Out of her 3 books, this is the one that I was least, gripped and fully into. I was much more into Bloodlines and Lost Stars than I was with Master and Apprentice. It's still great. And it's always great to get stories about 2 of my favorite Star Wars characters, Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan. I love both those characters, so to get more stories about these 2, it's great. Obi-Wan is my all-time favorite Star Wars character. And Qui-Gon, he's up there. I really like both these characters. So I'm really happy that I got some canon content to develop their relationships before the first one. The main conflict has to do with Qui-Gon leaving Obi-Wan. We know how that turns out. So it's always impressive when we get a story where we're like, oh, we know how this is going to end, so why are you telling it to us? But that we're gripped by Claudia Gray, makes you actually kind of wonder, oh, how's this going to turn out? And then you'll, think about it, oh, wait, I know how this is going to turn out. So it takes a very good author or screenwriter to do something like that for a prequel. Prequels are hard to do, especially when you're dealing with characters that we know their fates in the original series stories. So if people pull off prequels, that's just a huge round of applause, because we know how a lot of that stuff is going to turn out. And like I said, she does a thing where it makes me feel like I don't know how it's going to turn out. So that was very, very impressive. Everything to do with Dooku was just as interesting as it was in Jedi Lost. There's a lot of prophecy talk, which I was a little worried about. I was like, oh, I'm going to be bored. But that was actually the parts where I was, the most interested. Whenever it was dealing with prophecies, I was, fully invested into the story. I couldn't put it down whenever they were talking about prophecies. It's a good thing that makes most of the book, those prophecy talks, because I don't think I would have been as interested. But thankfully, seeing as how that's most of the book, Dooku and the prophecy is most of the book, so I got to be really invested in it. Some of the main plot line of Qui-Gon leaving Obi-Wan, like I said, there are moments where I'm like, oh, what's going to happen? I'm like, oh, but for the most part, it never really invested with me. It never really took me anywhere, which was kind of disappointing that our main sort of plot line wasn't as investing as I was like to be. I was definitely invested in parts, but I need to know the answers now. Because like I said, I already knew the answers pretty much, and it just wasn't as investing as I wish it would have been. But it's always, like I said, it's a struggle to do something like that, and she pulled it off very well, so gotta give her a round of applause. Claudia Gray needs more work in the Star Wars universe. Give us a Lost Stars sequel. Come on, just do it. It's an amazing book. Just give us a Lost Stars sequel. But we'll talk more about how amazing it is when I review Lost Stars. But just this was incredibly well written. Claudia Gray is a great author. I definitely recommend this book. And just it gets pretty deep with like themes, mythology and stuff. And I wasn't expecting a story about Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan to go that far, but it did. And like I said, the prophecy stuff, it invested in me. Her writing invests in me. And just the parallels from another great book, Duke of Jedi Lost, is there. So this is definitely a Star Wars book I would recommend. Like I said, pretty much even the weakest canon books aren't bad. I think canon has, for story-wise, like especially in books, has been way stronger than Legends. Of course, there's not as much canon material as there is Legends, but canon, like I said, has been way stronger. Who knows? Hopefully, High Republic doesn't disappoint. Hopefully the finale of the Alphabet Squadron sticks to the landing. Hopefully that new Thrawn trilogy works. So many stories you hope works and stuff. But like I said, canon has been very great. In the future, will hopefully continue to be great. So I'm going to give Star Wars Master and Apprentice a 9 out of 10. I definitely recommend this book, especially if you're Obi-Wan or Qui-Gon fan or a prequel era fan. I think if you're a fan, or just a Star Wars like prophecy or something, like really into all the prophecies in Star Wars, you'll love the book then. So if you are into any of that stuff, then definitely read this book. Or if you're just interested in knowing more about the Star Wars universe, read the book. It's great. I don't think you'll have your time wasted. It handles the characters very well. That's pretty much all I had to say about that. Seeing as how the next canon book won't come out until like August, I believe. It's just Dawn Ascendancy, Chaos Rising. So that review will have to wait a little bit. So our next review will be Star Wars Queen's Peril, a prequel to Queen's Shadow, and it's a story about Amidala becoming queen. So stay tuned for that one. This is Jordan from Jordan Reviews, signing off.